And hello again, we're back from last week where we gave you 8 good anime, because that's all 2023 had.
Welcome back, losers! It's time for more cartoons!
Yes, this is Talen Lee, he, him, and I am joined, as always, on these long-form videos by Fox League.
As always, in these specific cases.
Well, you gotta remember, by the time this goes up, this will be 3 months of bi-weekly content of us just doing stuff together.
It's true, we have begun a pattern.
Mm-hmm. And you like patterns?
I do. I am exactly the kind of goblin who likes patterns. A she-her goblin who is Fox Lee.
Mm-hmm. I believe the term we got from Tumblr is a she-sir.
I am just some guy.
She's just some guy. So, we are now looking at the anime from 2023 that we watched together that doesn't hit the mark of just good, just uncritically recommended, I like this, I think you would like this if you like this kind of thing.
So these are things that were like, it's not bad, but it's not really worth holding up.
Caveats, provisos, asterisks, maybes, sortas, etc.
And the occasional, this was very good, but...
Yeah. And there's going to be some interesting stuff in this space. Trust me on this one. As always, what we've done is sorted them by release date. So we're just going to be looking at them in order of the year, what time they came out in the year. This isn't a quality-based list. And the list starts with My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 9999. I think since last video I threw them all at you, I should probably take up the mantle of describing this one.
Sure.
Which is to say, the most autistic esports hot boy winds up in a romantic entanglement with a woman who is on the rebound from a relationship that gets kicked off because a game she was playing with her ex is the game he plays to wind down when he's not being a professional gamer.
Yeah. What if I dated my ex's favorite pro gamer? Which
is a fun concept that they do very little with.
Yeah, when I put it like that, it sounds kind of bitchy, but that's not at all the angle that it's coming from.
Yeah, it's the hook. It's definitely the hook of like, ooh, this reply, because like they actually show it. Here's a reply guy. Like Yamada-kun will tweet something, and then they will show all these replies from this other guy, which is sad. Don't do that. But in the context of this kind of a story, that's the hook. That's how you get you involved. But after that, it's just the story of an extremely autistic guy winding up, realizing he has caught feelings for this well-meaning gamer girl. Like, it's not a particularly high-concept show.
No, it's pretty basic, and that's why it's only in the mid-tier for me. But, once again, if we were doing actual tier lists, it'd probably be at the very top of the mid-tier.
Yeah.
Because it was fun. I didn't at any point want to stop watching. The animation's pretty nice. It's not, like, lavishly gorgeous the way that some of my top-tier shows were, but it's cute, and it's fun, and it's having a good time, and it does engage with what is quickly becoming my absolute favorite anime genre, which is just, what if two people had very normal brains?
Mm-hmm. It does introduce, like, it is not without interesting things, but the stuff in it that is interesting is challenging to talk about easily, particularly because it so, I guess, slur warning, I'm going to discuss some Japanese slurs. There's a sequence where they meet up with the members of the guild, and they find out that someone who plays a hot girl online is in real life not a hot girl.
Not even a hot girl, but an aggressively cute young girl.
Yeah, and he's not a girl. And this leads to the show taking a little, like, pulls over and parks and goes, hey, here's a word you don't know, and it's nakama. And nakama is derived from okama, which is, I think it's derived from a type of kettle, but okama's a slur.
It is an unkind way to call a man gay.
Yeah, or it has a lot of the same energy we would associate with, F slur and TR slur. Oh.
Actually, yes, it's not. Saying just gay is to underplay the fact that this is one of those words that is used to bundle every kind of gender queerness and cross-dressing and romantic spectrum.
Yeah.
It's everything that's not appropriately manly.
It's a lot of stuff all bundled up, and it flattens that out, and it means that you will wind up... You can find characters who get referred to this way, and in the past it was a matter of like, well, that's how we know this character is some variety of queer, but we don't know what. Like, everyone clearly reads them for something, but that doesn't mean that we know what it is. And this is...
I also don't know how contemporary it is, because the places I've seen it are definitely like period stories.
Yeah, well, it was still being used all through the 80s and 90s. It's
Okay.
that word is in Ranma a lot.
Cool.
Yep. It's just one of those reminders of just like, oh yeah, yeah.
We all did it. Ranma's from the 80s. English language media was worse.
Ooh, yeah, worse, much worse. But it does mean that there are some like very important queer texts to the millennial youth, which
Yes.
don't stand up. They're a bit rough. But anyway, and Nekama is Internet Okama.
Yeah.
And the show does a really weird thing where it'll like pull over, describe this thing, point at it a little bit, and then never bring it up again.
It's quite frustrating because I saw this coming basically when they did this. I'm like, oh, it's definitely the guy. It's definitely his friend from school. This is just, plot point, you are clear to land.
Yeah. It's extremely obvious and also to us unremarkable.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's cool. That's how it is. That's how it works. And the fact that they went out of their way to bring up this thing and accuse him of it and have him be like, no, definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a guy who designed his avatar to look like his little sister, which is very normal.
And we're going to conclude the episode with an omake of the character doing a fashion show.
It's so close to being, really cool and forward-thinking about that, and then they just fuck it with the defensiveness.
Or even just not shitty.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing. This character, when we see him, when he is defending himself against, no, I'm not queer, he is wearing a school uniform and a hoodie and a jacket over the hoodie.
Oh yeah, he's super gay. He's very cute.
Which, just saying, if you know a trans girl, chances are good she dressed like that at one point. It's a stereotype.
We see him wearing the long sleeve. Well, the American word would be sweater, draped over the shoulder with the arms tied in the front.
Yeah, which we code as queer,
which is incredibly queer coded here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I wish you weren't being so defensive about this.
Yeah.
Because you didn't need to go there.
Mm-hmm.
It is enough to go, these characters assumed you were a girl because you were a girl online. That's something you'd do if you were 20 years older than these people. These guys should know better.
Yeah. Anyway.
Now let's laugh at that and move on. But instead they chose to make it more of a thing. Just a bummer.
It's a show full of things which I wish were a little bit better.
The other thing that really lets it down, in my opinion, is that every video game in an anime, this video game
looks
shit.
Yeah.
It's really dull. It's just another thing where it's you can log in, buy costumes, grind for shit you don't care about, and not have space in the guild storage for all the shit loot that you get that you don't even want. It just seems to be the same MMO every time an MMO has to appear in an anime, and it is always the most fucking boring thing I can imagine.
Now, I will say, in defense of the representation of games in this anime, one, there is a consistent aesthetic style for all the characters in the MMO. So the fact that she is a little chibi cat, and he is a little chibi dude.
Yeah, sure, they're all little chibis. And they talk about it being an old game as well, and I think that's a part of it.
I think it's a reference to Ragnarok Online style games.
I think it's meant to evoke Ragnarok, yeah.
Yeah, and also there is a joke in the second episode about logging in for the first time and seeing that all the good haircuts are paid.
Yeah.
But, oh wait, there's one nice one that isn't paid. Haha. And then you log in and find everyone has the same haircut. That's a funny joke that comes from a very authentic place.
It is, but only because those games are shit!
Oh, yeah, you might notice I stopped. That was it. That was my defense. Those 2 points. Everything else, no. Play better games. But whatever.
It's so annoying. It was very distressing to me to realize that my nephews think of game content as joyless grinding. That's what they expect to get out of a game. And to me, I would not call playing a game grinding, even if it's repetitive, unless there is no other joy or incentive or reason. It's only grinding if it's something you repeat for no other purpose than farming XP or materials or whatever.
Yeah, there's a whole conversation about labor games there, and if you want, I can bust out the David Serlin, and if you don't want me to do that...
No, I don't think we need to go deep into it. It's just, it was very upsetting to realize that they think of all gameplay as being grinding, whereas to me, grinding is specifically the word for the kind of gameplay you don't want, because it sucks and it's boring.
Or if you're doing it for a purpose. Like, when I was playing World of Warcraft last time, I was grinding every week a whole bunch of raids to make gold to pay for my WoW sub. And that was a thing I did to maintain the WoW sub, but also I didn't need to do it. There was other stuff to do that I did enjoy.
That is exactly it, though. You only did that content.
Yeah.
Especially over and over again, in order to earn a resource.
Yeah, and it was for a specific purpose.
You did not do it because you opened the game and you were like, what I'd really like to do is run Ogre La again.
Yeah, the game is not grind. Grinding is a thing you can do in games.
Yeah. Anyway, setting that aside from that, this is quite a fun anime. It's worth checking out if the presence of just a really shit game is going to make you angry.
There's also a point where a character gets described as not reading the air, which is the closest I think I've ever come to seeing in anime someone going, that guy's autistic.
Yeah, it's true. Like I said, this is rapidly becoming my favorite genre of anime, and they're coming closer and closer to actually acknowledging that it's a thing.
Normal brain.
And in the fullness of time, I think it's very clear that a great many beloved anime characters are maybe a little neurospicy, and that is why we love them.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing and being more open about that is, it's letting me get more out of anime, which is quite fun. And I especially enjoy how the romance of this eventually resolves, or rather, eventually actuates. Because it's another one of those shows where it's a will they, won't they, and it ends with, yes, they will! But it is a surprisingly enjoyable yes, they will.
Yeah.
And I will grant that.
Alright then. Speaking of neurospicy and romance...
Oh yeah?
Gundam Witch from Mercury!
Oh, yeah. I feel like we're going to make a lot of people angry by putting this in the mid.
The funny thing is, I think the people around me would be like, it wasn't that good, and the people around, the other side of things are like, how dare you call this mid?
Yeah, we're not going to make anyone happy by putting it up.
Because, I really like this show.
Yeah, and I don't dislike it. Not at all. This one's really hard for me to pinpoint anything that's wrong with exactly. I don't like anyone's hair. That's a sticking point for me. And of course it does feature one of my absolute top tier best girls of the previous couple of years.
Yeah.
Choo Choo is still our hero. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's not the kind of story that I would have enjoyed for it to be. Mm-hmm. That's probably why it's here. It's a very good version of the story it's telling. Gundam...
Can I give you a glib summary?
Sure. Oh, yeah, sorry. You should summarize this.
So, Gundam Witch from Mercury, which is the second season, continuing on from the first, as second seasons tend to, but not always, is the story of a far future vision of humanity where we're doing space stations and what is a Gundam series. If you know what a Gundam is, it's a Gundam series, where corporations rule the space between countries and planets, and there is basically a ban on making particular types of Gundams. And then at the big Gundam Academy, up shows a girl with her own Gundam and immediately starts disrupting things by being both an adorable country bumpkin and the best. And the way I glibly would summarize it is it's making a Gundam series out of Evangelion and Utena.
Yeah, there's a lot of Utena in here, as probably everyone who has seen any of this already knows.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's a Venn diagram that's going to hit me very squarely.
That is kind of a 90s all-star,
Yeah, a bunch of stuff that I love very deeply, because, and here's the funny thing, this is the first Gundam series I've watched in its entirety.
And by the way, for all that I am couching my opinions in a lot of clauses here, this is by far the best Gundam I have seen.
Yeah, you've watched Seed and Destiny at last check.
I haven't watched Destiny.
Okay.
I haven't watched that many Gundams overall. I have seen Wing and Seed and 0083.
Yeah, well, if we count the Gundams I've started but not finished, yeah, I'm in a similar boat.
Oh, yeah. And this unambiguously shits on them.
Yeah.
Not even close. Gundam Seed made me very angry in particular. And I feel like a lot of Gundams want to eat their cake and have it too. As in, they want to be like, war is very, very bad. We're going to have one character whose entire point is to tell you how bad war is. But we are also going to be just incredibly indulgent about how fucking cool space fights with giant robots are.
Yeah.
And we will tell you how bad war is more than we will ever actually portray how bad a war is.
Ooh, that's, yeah, for other ones, yeah, but for this one, I think they did a really good job.
That's what I'm saying. This one actually is the first one I have watched where I feel like it was written by someone who doesn't, in fact, think having child soldiers kill each other in giant robots is kind of sick, actually.
Uh-huh.
Like, it gets really fucking rough in the second season as well.
Uh-huh.
Like, the first season is, you can see where it's going, especially in the last episode. You're like, oh, God. I see, I understand.
God, I loved that finale. That was so good.
And, like, it's well executed. There's nothing here where I'm like, well, I feel like that was a mistake. I feel like you undermined your point. I hate what you did with this character or that character. It's really well done. It's just, I was hoping that if it was gonna be a lesbian story, it might be about lesbian joy.
Yeah, and we hit another point which will usually come up when talking about this kind of anime, which is I wish you did more and better. Which, yeah.
Yeah, if this was an entry in a, like, season full of exciting queer anime, that had all different kinds of tones, and some of them were sad and thoughtful, and some of them were stupid and fun, and if we had the fullness of a spectrum of flavors here, rather than, picking scraps.
Well, speaking of stupid and fun, Birdie Wing, Season 2.
Man, okay.
I don't even want to pivot to Birdie Wing necessarily right away. I still had some stuff to say about Gundam Wing, but you handed me such a transition there.
Finally, a show about lesbians where I love the designs.
So, Birdie Wing it's Season 2 of Birdie Wing, and it's continuing the story of Eve, a golf hustler who doesn't play golf. She hits balls with sticks to survive in her ongoing quest to get a hamburger out of Ai, the girl who wants to kiss her so badly.
So bad.
And the metaphor for all of the gay sex they want to be having is Yu-Gi-Oh! Golf.
Yeah, the show is fucking nonsense.
This is the Inazuma 11 golf show.
You know what? Yeah, this is the real reason that witch from Mercury is here. Because, if there are two girls who are obviously gay, Bandai's going to pretend that they're not gay, but they're very obviously gay.
Yeah.
This is the kind of dumb fun I want them to be having.
Yeah.
And they do, like, they become very... for the benefit of the listener, here are my giant air quotes, serious in the second season, and that's why Birdie Wing is in the same tier here, because compared to the first season, this one is a bit of a drag. Like, we start off at the academy.
Season 1 had a mind-controlling golf vampire.
Yeah, and private school golf is just not as much fun as
golf
fucking
hustler.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Underground Mafia golf, where you might get shot
in
golf. But if you die in golf, you die in real life.
By the way, I would like to point out, in the context of these characters, right? Eve and I are great characters. I do not dislike them at all, but I love Soletta.
Oh yeah, they're not complex characters.
Yeah, and part of this is Soletta. I have known Soletta. Soletta is the most homeschooled girl I've ever met in an anime.
Yeah.
And queer homeschooled girls, like, yes, critical support for the big weirdo that is Soletta. Meanwhile, Eve does not need my support. She's going to go deal with the bazooka-wielding golf mafia.
Yeah, but her golf girlfriend is gonna golf die, Talen.
Yeah, because
that means she's gonna for real die.
Yeah, because of her heart condition brought on from golfing too well.
Golfing too hard, yes. She loved golf. Not wisely, but too much. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, everything about the show is fucking nonsense.
But Birdie Wing is delightful in that way that you don't get to be except as an anime. Like, it's not making fun of its concept. Like, it seemed like Birdie Wing as a show seems to think, no, This is how you tell a golf story. It's not looking at the audience and going, ain't this wacky?
No, it's dumb as shit, but it is sincere in its dumbness, and that's the only reason that it works. Because otherwise you'd be like, what are you even doing here? Get out. In the second season also, particularly at the beginning of it, the budget fucking tanked.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I could see. Lots of Rainbow Trail After Effects.
And just like the faces are all manky. The continuity is shot to hell. Everyone is weirdly off model, like they're slightly melted or just like skewed on a different angle. It's not good.
It also has the girl caddy who is like Irish caddy coded with the really weirdly big sideburns.
She's a weird
She's
one.
great.
Oh, and the new rival character who is I can't say for sure, but I am inclined to think is a little yikesy.
Yeah.
She's like a wild orphan child that a old white golf pro pulled out of Brazil and educated.
The noble golfing savage.
She could barely control her wild golfing style. She's still basically an animal.
Yeah, that's not a little yikesy. That's extremely yikesy.
Yeah.
And I guess
she's not really a character either. Like, she's literally just, we needed a hurdle to make Eve feel threatened because she's already become Ghost Superman.
we need a scary black lady.
Yeah. Oh, no, they have one of those in the actual
Oh yeah, they
Pro
do.
tournament.
I'm mixing them up, aren't I? Because, like, disclosure, I haven't watched Birdie Wing Season 2. I watched 2 episodes and went, meh.
It was very rude of them to pull the plug on the tournament as well. Like
Yeah.
they do eventually get to go back and golf together. Finally, they're definitely married.
Yeah. When you're married in golf, you're married in real life.
Oh, hell yes! Golf is more serious than real life, if anything. Also, did you know golf is in DNA?
Yeah. You've
Yes.
got golf in your DNA.
Everybody who is good at golf in this series is like, they have inherited it through parents who were good at golf.
Punnett
Not-
squares.
Not who trained them obsessively about golf from a young age, because that's how you normally get good at golf from your parents. But no, it's just magically in there.
Yeah.
But also, it might kill you!
I've remarked about how shows like The Blacklist are about crime wizards. Birdie Wing is about golf wizards.
It also included one of my only good Reddit experiences, which is where I laughed at something in an episode, and then I looked up a reference in it, and the entire page was just full of shit like, yeah, if you die in golf, you die in real life. The exact jokes I would have made. I'm like, alright, fine. Internet is good for a brief moment.
Speaking of the internet being good for a brief moment, next up,
What do you got?
Otaku Elf.
Oh yeah, this is a cute little fun series that is a good time, but is definitely another entry in the jobs are bad canon.
So, Otaku Elf is about a girl living in Tokyo whose interesting side hobby is that she is the shrine maiden for her family shrine, which happens to have an actual honest-to-God, real fantasy elf who got isekai'd several hundred years ago, along with a number of other elves, and is used as a framing device to talk about things like otaku culture, hikikimori, and also just the interesting way that Japan relates to things like shrine practice and long-term religious commitments. Alright, I think that's a reasonable representation of, like, the actual stuff in that series.
More or less. It's not her hobby, it's her actual fucking job, but...
Yeah, she's not getting paid. But, ... it's also about a trash nerd elf and her probably got a crush on her bestie.
Yeah, this is another very plausibly deniably gay series.
Yeah.
Because our main character, well, our shrine maiden's best friend from school just radiates lesbian energy.
She hits on her. She flat out hits on her.
Oh yeah, it's a joke. Except, you know, it's exactly the kind of joke that's not a joke. If you're in high school and you said that to your best friend, you probably meant it.
Girl prince energy, which is really amazing for someone with big fluffy twin tails.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say girl prince exactly, but...
Yeah, well, it's about how you pull it off, not how you look.
It's a bit about how you look.
Well, you're very superficial, aren't you?
No, how you present yourself is a facet of how you want to be perceived and how you feel about yourself. Which is why our main character has that fucking Gucci handbag that she bought, because she wants to be a sophisticated lady.
God, that is the best joke. In the first episode, she's showing off a Gucci bag she saved up a ton of pocket money for, and bought, and everyone points out how it doesn't match her and it doesn't fit her
Does
vibe.
not suit her.
And it's in every episode, and every time you see it, I burst out laughing.
Because if you wanna attain a vibe, then how you present yourself is a part of that.
Yeah.
And you can't buy your way into that, but you can defy a world that says it doesn't suit you by going, I don't care. I'm gonna do it because it's what I want for me.
Yep.
I really like our elf's design.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's lovely. She's very pretty.
Uh-huh.
I
You
may
want to
have a
brush your
thing
hair?
for skinny blonde girls with very, very long hair.
Yes.
You
liked El Hazard growing up, right?
I did like El Hazard.
Moving
She's got
on.
long blonde hair in that, though.
Actually, I was trying to say... what. So, joke misfire. You liked Escaflowne growing up, didn't you?
Oh, yes. He has very pretty
He has very
long
pretty
blonde
hair.
Weird ass nose, though. I also, like, being not a small amount of weeb, I do also really enjoy how it's, like, this is secretly just a show about historical education.
Yeah.
Like, there's the framing device of, like, it's an elf, and it's funny because despite the fact that she's, like, a goddess and an elf, she's just into, like, nerd shit. Though, it is fascinating what she's into as well, because it's almost like it's not really nerd shit, it's, like, collectible stuff. Like, a lot of it is, like, I want the special edition of Noodles that's only available in this province, or, you know, this is a limited time label on this fucking can of drink.
Yeah.
And I want to have some of those. It's really interesting.
Well, you got to remember, otaku culture in Japan is not the same as otaku culture in Australia. We are using an exported idea, which means we're looking at a very specific exported thing there.
Yeah.
A thing that, like, this will come up in another video, a thing that's easy to forget is that otaku in Japan means obsessive about something.
Yes.
And that there are things like vending machine otaku who are like, oh, I know all the models of vending machine.
Though, more to the point, the show isn't even called Otaku in Japanese. It's called Edomae Elf.
Yeah.
Which is just like elf from the Edo period or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's called Otaku Elf overseas because Edomae means fucking nothing. Well, no, that's not fair. It doesn't mean nothing. It means a way we serve eels in restaurants.
It means, here's a thing that Fox might recognize, but a more basic anime fan wouldn't.
Yeah. Here's a type of bean.
It's what it would have been like if we titled the show with the word otaku in the 90s.
Yeah.
When knowing what that word meant was unusual.
Uh-huh. What, like Otaku no Video?
Yes. Which was for nerds! Also, there's a bit where where the elf...
Is this Gachapane? Are you going to talk about Gachapane?
No, not the Gachapane. That's kind of funny too. But,
yeah.
No, I was going to talk about she's got, like, special ordered, like, jam or, like, candied something or other in jars or whatever, and afterwards she washes out the jars and keeps them and then talks about how she has a collection of jars, and her exact words are like, because they're shiny and I liked the shapes. So, once again, we are talking about very normal brain characters.
Yeah!
And that's a huge part of why I like Elda so much.
Yeah, you really identify with the way that she anyway. So,
I like hoarding shiny things, what can I say? And also there's, like, frankly, the first episode of this almost set a very negative tone, because I was so angry at the main character in the first episode, where it was just like, this, the elf, by existing in the place she is and just being there, like, everyone in town loves her. They know she's there. The fact that she is there gives them, like, a sense of fulfillment or whatever. You know, no one's grumpy that she wants to stay in her room all the time. They unambiguously love her. And yet, she's always being nagged to do shit by this little girl.
Yeah.
You know, like, just let the elf sit in her room with her anxieties. You don't need to force anything here. She's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
She's not...
Let her cook.
You know, doing wrong by the people of this town by not wanting to go out all the time. They like her just the way she is.
Uh-huh.
Got on my tits in a huge way. But after the first episode, they don't push that nearly as hard, because after having established the whole, she's kind of a nagging mum of a character, they then revert pretty much to just, well, they're friends, and one of them is the serious one, and one of them is the slacker. And that's a much less frustrating dynamic.
Well, speaking of mildly disappointing elves, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End.
Wow, did it get all the way up into mid-tier?
I mean, you have it as a in your listing, and I have it lower.
Oh yeah, my report card came with emotes rather than ranks.
Yeah, just a slightly sad face.
Well, do we want to save this for when we're angry, or do we want to talk about it now?
No, it's fine. It belongs here.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really make me angry. It just makes me disappointed.
So, Frieren Beyond Journey's End is a fantasy anime, non-isekai, set in your classical RPG story, where the heroes band together, form a diverse group, go defeat the Demon King, return home exalted as heroes, and then fast forwards 400 years, sorry, not 400 years, like 40, 50 years.
It's like 50 years is the first time skip, and then we do like 3 more little time skips.
Yeah, where the elf in that party, and the dwarf, but no one cares about the dwarf because fuck dwarves, they're not hot. And
You can't have twin tails.
yeah,
Ison would look so good with twin tails.
where the elf is now going, oh, I have neglected 40 years of friendship. This is a new experience for me, an elf from a culture that does this all the time. And what follows is her then going on a sort of a slow, easy road trip, following up on the stuff from the original adventure, acquiring a new apprentice, acquiring a bit of the load, and just in the nicest parts of this series, it's an interesting reflection on the passage of time in fantasy universes and growing old and losing contact with friends.
That's what I wanted it to be.
In its best bits, that's what it is.
Its best bits don't come up very often.
So, remember how earlier I said that there was a show that I would just rather more of it better made?
Yeah.
This is the opposite.
You'd rather-
I actually think Frieren would benefit from having less Frieren.
I don't think the volume is the problem. I have enjoyed the pacing of it.
Mhm.
My problem with it is that it never does what I want it to, and its examinations of what it's so interested in thinking about always come up really boring to me.
Yeah, because it's the
Because
most
its
bog
world is
standard,
boring.
boring fantasy.
Right? Like, it...
What if there were people who had long lives and lost contact with other people? That happens. That's real. That's a thing that happens all the time to humans. The only reason you do it with an elf is because, like, but she's still hot.
And she's not really hot.
Oh,
I mean, I'm glad she's not hot, because she's also, like, she looks like a child,
Yeah,
so I'd rather she not be hot.
This is just Fox's opinion.
I know, hot to play, whatever.
I'm not involved in this conversation. I never said anything. But the point is, for me, there are things this series does badly.
I definitely think that.
And
like,
it could be specific, it could be like really specific in that this has no conception of how to demonstrate martial power. Like, characters who are good at fighting do not matter. It's like, oh, but they have Stark, and he did a fight that one time, and he hit the dragon in the head. Like, yeah, but
he can, like, do a strike that cuts through a mountain.
Yeah, in which case it's representing it as magic again.
Yeah.
Right? So it has no idea how to represent combat, interestingly, which follows on the most
It is
basic...
a world for wizards, yeah.
Yeah, which follows on the most basic fantasy trope, which is to say, fighters are ballast, and wizards are the actual powerful ones who get to do whatever the fuck they want.
I mean, the only reason they ever get a non-wizard in the first place is because apparently dragons are immune to magic, but not weapons.
Yeah, and the dragon's defeat is a comedy point. Another thing it does badly is, again, to bring up a point from the previous video, a lot of anime representations of power, once they escalate past a certain point, is just people doing wave motion beam cannons at each other.
Yeah, magic is very much wave motion beam cannons.
And in Frieren, there is a point where you have an important villain and one of the main characters dueling with magic, and it is two completely blank-faced characters doing wave motion beam cannon bullshit at each other with no emotional expression, no representation of what their powers are for or like, or how they relate to them. It's just battle platforms zapping at each other. And this is where the Sakuga gets spent. So it's exquisitely animated, high quality, boring shit.
Similarly, in the vein of the whole, like, examination of time passing, there's, like, an interesting point fairly early on where they go to visit a powerful demon that they couldn't defeat the first time the party came through here. And so they had to seal him away instead. You know, the classic thing.
Yeah.
We'll come back and deal with this later. So she comes back and she's like, now we can defeat him. And the whole thing is like, oh yeah, he had this incredible spell that no one could defeat back then. And it's been so long that we have integrated that spell into our own magic system. And I can just, like it's nothing, blast his face off with his own magic. That's cool.
Yeah, that
was cool. And then they did basically the same thing again.
Yeah.
With a different super powerful demon, but this time it takes like 4 episodes to get through, and it's so
And one of those episodes is half
frustrating.
flashback.
Yeah.
And that flashback is, here is how Frieren is Goku.
Yeah, here is how she was actually secretly more powerful all along, even if we didn't have the whole passage of time thing going. In which case it's like, well, why do we care?
Yeah.
That it's been hundreds of years then. What was the point of even thinking about this to start with? It's...
The thing this anime does badly is represent a relationship to power and a willingness to use it. And I think that means it gets very weak whenever it wants to do that. When it is doing things like the emotional resonance of lying around with friends, or long talks, or... There are some montages in this that are amazing, but...
I like the thoughts this has to think about friendship.
Yeah.
The thoughts it has to think about romance and shit.
Yeah.
The part of this that has actively made me angry is the discussion of the romantic relationships between characters, and like they brush lightly off of it in one episode where they talk about how their party only has socially awkward members, and this includes the guy they just picked up who has, like, he's sort of positioned as being the most... He's the best at humaning.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, he's the only one who has humaned for an extended period of time.
He's the one who is not openly and nakedly autistic coded.
And I'm like, okay, there's something interesting and good there, but it turns out he's good at people in the way that, like, Kaji from Evangelion is good at people, which is that he's fucking not, but the other characters think he is and treat him like he is.
Yeah.
And the story just kind of goes along with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just going, well, you would know why this is ironic, or if it genuinely just thinks that, like, what he's saying is good advice. When he says things like, men don't care about unimportant shit like birthdays and anniversaries. Like, he gives the worst advice, and he has now become the source of romantic mentoring for the 2 younger apprentice characters, who are a pretty bad couple to start with, and, like, honestly, Fern reads as very ace.
Yep.
Or at least very gay. Definitely not het.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. But It frustrates me a lot that the show wants to think about these questions so much. But its world and its worldview is so, like, fundamentally, like, cis-heteronormative and also, like, capitalist adventure exploitation normative, that I just don't think it will ever have any interesting answers to find.
Uh-huh.
I think the conclusions it comes to are going to continue to be very boring. I was told this series would be chill and make me cry, and it has not moved me to tears once. Except every time the ending theme plays, because the ending theme is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
But the show itself, I am dry-eyed all the way through this, and I will cry for almost anything.
I joked that Frieren is, like, holding its breath before it smashes the glass on a tournament arc. And when I said that, a friend proceeded to start talking about the tournament arc, not realizing that I was joking.
Yeah, I thought for sure you were wrong about that, but then I watched a few episodes ahead because there was like one episode of the season that we hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
And we didn't know whether it was the last of that season or the first of the new one, so I wound up watching like 4 more episodes, and yeah, it's effectively a tournament arc. It isn't actually, but it has the exact same qualities as a tournament arc.
And like, I don't bag on this anime to yuck anyone's yum.
No, I'm glad people are getting out of it what they're getting out of it, but I just don't understand what it is.
Yeah, I think it has to be, like, there are times where I will see someone engaging with a piece of media with a degree of fervency that doesn't make sense to me, and then they will let slip and I realize, oh, you think that character's really hot. This is how Toho works for me.
If it's just the joy of, like, 2, if not 3, extremely autistic coded characters just getting to be the main characters of a bit, and that's delightful, then I guess I understand that. Mm-hmm. Like, you still don't get that very often, despite all the talk that we've had about most anime character traits are just neurospicy traits.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the same point, it just means that every character in this show is, like, fighting and talking and loving and reminiscing and losing and going through trauma with just the same flat expressions all the time and not really much of an emotional payoff to anything. Oh god, I just remembered about the whole demons thing.
Yeah.
You know what would have been interesting? Dealing with a world where the passage of time has transpired and now you have to think about what if the people you were fighting are actually to be treated like humans as well, and, you know, what if we have to adapt and I have to stop just hating people categorically. That's actually an interesting thing to talk about if you're gonna do a story where hundreds of years pass during this character's lifetime.
Nope.
But no, demons are just evil. They're evil because they're evil, and they're going to be evil forever because they evil McEvil.
Born to be evil. Knits make lice.
So boring. And yeah, icky.
Yep. No, it's the most boring, basic, standard fantasy. I look forward to when they introduce orcs and just treat them as animals.
I would love to see this story told in a different world.
And speaking of disappointing and neurospicy, Buddy Daddies!
Oh yeah! Well, you know what, this is a lot more fun than Frieren, at least.
Yeah. So Buddy Daddies is... I just want to agree preemptively with someone. Nick, my friend, remarked when I was talking about anime that Buddy Daddies is not a Spy Family ripoff. And they're right. It's not a Spy Family ripoff. Its advertising is 100% a Spy Family advertising ripoff. It would love some of them bump of chicken attention, but... Buddy Daddies is a story about two guy assassins who live together but aren't gay, and they wind up adopting a little girl in the course of a adventure / heist / okay, fine, it's a murder. They do a murder and get a little girl, which is the worst thing you can get on the drop table. And the rest of the story is just these two dudes going about their lives as criminal mercenaries while also grappling with what it means to raise an ordinary child in Japan. And, like... nothing in this show is going to surprise you. Nothing in it is going to impress you. It's not going to go there with anything, but it's pretty solid.
There were a lot of small surprises in this for me. Like, I'm angry that one of our characters smokes in the house. And I was pleasantly surprised that the other character was like, no, there's a child here, smoke outside.
Yes.
There's a lot of little things like that. Obviously they were never going to have them actually be gay.
No.
But I like that at the daycare, people think they're gay, and they don't get hyper-defensive about it.
Yeah. Like,
it's just
they don't
a
care.
thing. And the manager of the daycare, who is also a pleasant surprise because she's not skinny.
Yeah.
She's not really fat, but she's plump.
Yeah.
She has a different build to other women, even in this art style.
Look, so when we say she's not fat, she's fat. The issue here is that fat is a zone that starts really close.
She'd get called fat by skinny girls.
Yeah.
Anybody who's actually been fat, probably not. But the point is, she looks... It is a character design trait. It is not how fat normally appears in anime, which is this character says they're fat, even though they have the precise proportions of every other teenage girl in this show.
Yeah.
Maybe bigger tits.
The character, like, the show's very episodic.
Yeah, that's true.
Which works to its benefit. It means that no single story idea outstays its welcome. You wind up going to the zoo for an episode, and it's fun. You wind up with a sports meet at the kindergarten for one episode, and it's fun.
And the animation is very cute.
Uh-huh.
Is well done. It is not, like, cheap and nasty. It doesn't feel like it's just getting over the line so it could ride that Spy Family coattails as hard as possible.
Yeah.
The characters are mostly fun.
Mm-hmm.
We have some extreme neurospiciness, which is very enjoyable. Like, we have a character who sleeps in the bathtub. He's so normal-brained.
Yep, and his not boyfriend, massive amounts of anxiety and trauma triggers.
Yep.
Tries to control everything in his environment and tries to be the best house husband to someone who does not care.
The daughter is, I mean, she's no Anya.
No.
But you can't be Anya.
No.
You have to settle for just being an actual normal little girl who is, most of the time, really convincing as just being an actual normal little girl. Like,
yeah.
She does not feel like the child characters in most stories feel, which is like a version of a child, a simulacrum that someone has constructed to fulfill narrative purposes. She mostly feels like a little kid with all the just sort of weird randomness that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of this show is mid to good.
Yeah.
The real disappointing part of this is the ending, whereby we have known all along who the little girl's real mother is, and, you know, she's a lady from the wrong side of the tracks, so she doesn't want anything to do with this unwanted brat who came into her life. Please take her away. She's a nasty, horrible woman who doesn't care about her daughter.
Which is a shame, because they were very close to actually just saying the term postpartum depression, and then they didn't.
Or just respecting the fact that women shouldn't be made to have children they don't want to have.
Yeah.
But the anime is definitely not going there. It's not ready to tackle any kind of thought like that.
Yeah. Well, women are an afterthought to this series.
That's very true. Which is why we do eventually have the mother re-enter the show when she finds out that her nightclub singer career is going to be destroyed by her throat cancer, and all she wants to do now is spend some time with her daughter, who she regrets casting away. And no, they have to give her back to her real mother because that's the right thing to do, because they are fucking assassins. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if they don't die soon, she's going to. But whatever. So they do the whole, you know, we have to have our guys make the right decision, and we have to, you know, give our cute little gremlin girl what she wants, which is ultimately to go home with her mom as well. And we tug at the heartstrings, and we make sure we show you how committed they are to giving her the best possible life. And then we extremely have her biological mother assassinated.
Yeah.
So she cannot cause us any further grief.
Yep.
They eject her from that plot right quick.
Pull the ripcord.
Yeah.
She leaves the scene, and the next time you see her, she's dead.
Pretty much. Yeah, and it all culminates in one of our characters having to face off with his assassin family to make sure that they won't be targeted anymore or whatever. And that also just made me really angry, because I wanted to see everyone in that house fucking die.
Yeah, don't.
None of them deserve to live.
Yeah, like, if the whole point of this character pair is that they're very good at killing people, and you have set up a conclusion with here is a room full of people who need to die, and to then have them go, no, I'm going to take the high road. Fuck you.
Fuck your high road. Fuck it. Fuck it so hard. The whole setup for this is like, we will never be safe. She will never be safe unless we remove this influence from our lives. But nah, you could probably just talk to your dad who had you murder dogs when you were a child and convince him. That'll be fine. You shouldn't just shoot that guy in his fucking face.
It's a weak ending.
It's a very weak ending, which is a bummer.
And the very finale at the very end, when they do a time skip forward, they do show a sequence where they make it clear that one of these guys, he's still womanizing. Like, so as to not be all the way gay-seeming.
Despite the fact that they still live together and own a restaurant together at this point.
And are raising a daughter together.
Well, they have completed raising their daughter. We see her as a teenager.
Yeah. Well, that's when you're done. That's when they're not, parents are done at teenager.
Isn't she? Oh, no, she's in,
like,
the senior year of high school, isn't she?
But yeah, like, it's a candy bar of the show. And if the last bite of a candy bar is a bit shit, well, I still had quite a lot of good candy bar.
Yeah, see, we have very different opinions on how chocolate bars should work.
Yeah. The point is, I'm not expecting a lot from Buddy Daddies.
No, well, I was never expecting a lot from it, because I did go in expecting a Spy Family ripoff.
Now, speaking of not expecting very much, Campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill. This is an isekai anime of the lowest possible effort about some guy who goes to the world of somewhere and arrives with the obligatory isekai power that you always seem to get of, in his case, being able to access a real-world supermarket and just, get instant food ingredients that he then uses over the course of what we will generously call an adventure. Cooking a whole bunch of different food for various people who get so impressed that he winds up becoming the best friend of a nature god and just makes interesting stuff and interesting food. And
don't forget Fenrir, the god wolf.
That's who I meant.
Oh, you're forgetting the actual nature god, actual goddesses.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well they're fun, but otherwise, broadly speaking, this is it's hard to express this without sounding like I'm deliberately trying to make it sound worse than it is. But this is the laziest kind of low effort, low impact isekai. This is isekai content. This is isekai product. This is isekai loaf. And it's fine. Because the thing you're here for is to look at nicely drawn and animated cooking sequences that make you feel hungry and associated with cool things, and definitely not think about the fact that they are eating sentient people. But it's okay, because they're icky orcs.
This is like the very definition of a mid show for me.
Yeah.
The animation quality is mid, the character design is mid,
Yep.
the pitch is mid, the execution is mid, the world is mid, everything is just straight down the line. You can see the other end when you go in. It's amazing.
It is a corridor of a show. You get the premise, you're like, well, how are they going to make this interesting? And that's the answer. They don't.
They make it exactly as interesting as it is to start with.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything.
The isekai power and the fact that it is an isekai becomes completely irrelevant very quickly.
That really gets on my tits, actually.
Yeah.
If I were to change a thing about this show without expecting that any of the, like, quality bars would improve, I would have just not made it an isekai at all.
No.
It should just be a show about a guy who finds a way to make all the weird shit in this world that people are forced to eat. Apparently this is a world without farming, is like the
Very
main
strange.
way that it's different from your average fantasy show.
Yeah.
Everything is game, and they don't even have like crops or anything reliably, we find out.
So
like,
by the way, that means everyone in this world's shits are awful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, that's what you should be buying from your convenience store with your otherworldly powers. Just, you should be
Fiber supplements?
introducing diarrhea medication to this world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this could have been a really interesting show about just a guy coming up with a way to make all this food interesting and even delightful and changing the world because people realize that you can enjoy food rather than it just being regrettable sustenance.
Uh-huh.
Which is apparently what Dungeon Meshi is.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm hoping I'll enjoy that.
Yeah. There's no reason you wouldn't expect to enjoy Dungeon Meshi.
But that's not this show. This is just a show where it's like, well, sometimes we're eating dragon, and sometimes we're eating, fucking Wagyu beef, and these are, like, comparable ideas.
Yeah.
It's and sometimes we're eating sentient beings that are even, like, human-shaped. The whole orc thing is really weird. I don't know why they did that. It's not compelling. It's just kind of icky and upsetting.
Do you remember the scene where they show orc testicles in a jar and proudly talk about how much money he's going to make?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because they're like an aphrodisiac or
something.
That's not cool. You could talk to that person.
This show isn't disappointing because from the outset, I could not possibly have a positive expectation.
You would have to have better expectations of it.
It existed on my second screen while I did something else.
Also, not for nothing, the guy's just kind of low-key shitty to Fenrir, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is his totally OP pet that he, shows up and is like, that smells good, give me food, and he makes food for it in, like, the second episode, and then it's like, I'll follow you forever as long as you keep giving me food.
Mm-hmm.
And from here on out, our hero can achieve any fight, just by virtue of the dog being able to kill anything it wants.
Yep. So all tension has left the building.
All tension is, which is fine. I don't care about that. Like,
we weren't
it's not
here
a
for
show
the
about
tension.
fighting. They forget that it's not a show about fighting and try to pretend that there's tension about fights, and you just like, stop it. Just stop it. You're not going to do it.
The God Wolf is there.
Stop
we
it.
can see it right there.
Yeah.
It's there.
Even if this guy is like on the brink of death, the God Wolf is right there. Stop it. Just stop it. Anyway, but then after a while, he just kind of becomes sort of shitty and ungrateful for this thing keeping him alive through no effort other than, like, he's just
and making him catastrophically rich.
Catastrophically rich, like, destabilizing amounts of rich.
Yeah, to the point where guilds are saying, like, look, we don't have as an organization money enough to pay you. Go elsewhere.
Yeah. You have exceeded the capacity of our entire infrastructure to deal with on a monetary level. And you're like, okay, it's cool, whatever. But also, you should thank your dog now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the only reason this shit works.
Say thank you, be nice, be kind.
Yeah. And he picks up the slime, who's like a very cute little sweet character. And then he starts, lavishing attention on the slime like a cute little baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even more frustrating at that point, because it's like, yes, but give your fucking dog a scritch. Very rude. Bad anime. No biscuits. Give your dog a pat.
And now, in your bracket of disappointing to mid, we watched one episode of Bullbuster.
Oh! Yeah, Bullbuster's here just because I don't feel like it deserves to be judged as bad.
No.
But at the same time, it was so dull to me that when you were like, do we want to watch another one? I was like, eh.
I can't tell you a single thing about any of the characters in Bullbuster.
I don't know why it glanced off me so aggressively, but there was just like nothing about it. The most prominent thing I remember about Bullbuster is that it appeared on the desert bus late night dub fight where Graham Stark made that really funny joke about I'm hot singles.
Yeah.
They're like, that was brilliant. Oh, that's right, there was a show underneath that. Oh, whatever.
With Bullbuster, so here's the thing about Bullbuster I found frustrating is that the first episode is about contract negotiations for union rates on a piece of heavy equipment, and that should be my shit.
It should be.
But instead, it's presented as corporate knows best. Corporate has to deal with the union, so your licensing stuff, well, if corporate didn't have to deal with unions, this would all be easier. Which, so it's like anti-union in a low-key way, and then you actually watch what they do with that, and it's very boring. Bullbuster's most notable thing is its funny name, and that it was made by Studio Nut.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that we have both Bullbuster and Nut in the same context there.
And finally...
Sorry, I pronounced that wrong, didn't I?
You did.
Nut!
There you go. And finally, my Clueless first friend.
This is another one that I just didn't care enough to keep watching. Which is a shame, because I had really high hopes for it. It's cute.
It feels like an anime for children.
It definitely is not. It is not remotely, sleazy or winking at the older audience or anything like that. It's definitely child appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't know how well it will hold your interest, but...
It's about... My Clueless First Friend is an anime about a girl with a gloomy look and a gloomy disposition who is bullied by her classmates for being cursed, and the new boy who joins their class who thinks that sounds sick.
Oh, you can curse people? That's fucking sick.
I'll hang out with you and be your friend.
Yeah.
And broadly speaking, it appears to be a 5-minute video about don't bully other people, extended out into a 13-episode series.
Yeah, I think that's about right. It's a very cute little wholesome premise. I don't at all dislike the idea, but I didn't actively find it funny at any point.
No,
And since it's only gonna tell you the same joke for the entirety of the show, it's only got one joke. And if you find that joke funny, it's probably a good time to just, cruise along with this fairly chill story about that one joke. But I didn't find it particularly funny. I'm like, hey, yeah, it's cool. Well, he seems to genuinely think that this is, the people mean it literally, that she can curse you. Oh, well, that's a thing. And what else you got? It's got nothing. It's got nothing! And I have a pretty low threshold for watching people get bullied in shows as well. It's also not very, it's hard to talk about this because, whatever I say, somebody's gonna be like, no, that was my realistic experience. But to me, the bullying depicted is very, overblown, kind of pretend this is what a person who hadn't been bullied thinks bullying is like.
Yeah.
And, as a person with some very personal experience with bullying, I am annoyed when it's presented like that. 'Cause I'm like, but that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, yeah, I realize even as I say that someone else is probably going to go, no, that's exactly what it's like. So, anyway, it rang false to me, and otherwise there just wasn't anything going on that I was too fussed about.
And with that, we have managed to reach the end of Part 2, The Meh.
Alright, we have coasted over a still and slow ocean of boredom.
And that means that what's coming up next is the stuff that made Fox mad.
Yay! And if you thought we were cranky at some things in this episode, you're gonna have a real fun time there.
But also, stuff I watched that you don't know.
But also, because there's not actually that much that made me angry.
No.
There's a few things.
Oh, and we're gonna go for it. But that'll be next week.
I guess you get to enjoy wondering if your favorite show is gonna show up in one of these two categories. It's probably gonna be one or the other.
And by the way, if you're tracking the big releases of 2023, I probably did look at it. And if it hasn't come up so far,
where could it be?
Ooh,
the tension.